Okay, my 4 minutes run. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present here in this gorgeous High Berlin stage. I'm Moritz von Grotthuss. I'm the managing director of Gestigon, a Northern Germany-based startup. We care about gestures in any kind, anywhere, totally mobile, totally integrated into your IT-controlled environment. What we do is we do software development only. We focus on 3D data given from sensors, which are widely available now in the market. The Kinect is most known to most of you, I assume. Probably a number of you have pre-ordered the Leap sensor. There are more companies like PMD Tech, like Soft Kinetic. What I'm going to show to you now is our very slim-based architecture, a slim-based software, which is designed as an enabling technology, as a middleware. Because I believe, and we believe, gesture recognition is not about, my 4 minutes are not, oh, it's not running on there, okay. Because we don't believe that gesture recognition is a program. It has to be seamlessly integrated into your environment, and you don't want to think about it. You don't want to have your core running gesture recognition. It has to go somewhere else and be as easy as a touch screen or a mouse. What we do is we take the 3D data, you see the red dots in behind, and we simply add a skeleton that you can predefine. I now have here the hand. It could be a full body, it could be an arm, it could be a finger, or it could even be your cat if you predefine the topology. So we take the 3D data, we have a hand which can work any way. It's 40 nodes here that we're using. You see the palm of a hand and the back. So you really get every degree of flexibility that you want and what you're looking for. And then you can simply add, via plugins, certain functionalities, certain points of focus, what you believe to be needed for your applications. So who are our customers? Well, we're talking about enabling technology. I don't want you to think about gesture recognition as a product. It's simply integrated into your product, into your new laptop, into your tablet. So we're talking with the OEMs, we're talking with the semiconductors, we're talking about with the producers of graphic cards, but we're also talking about automotive. I mean, we're Germans. We drive 220k on the Autobahn. We have a display on the screen, both hands on the wheel. I flip through my iTunes library, choose a record I want to listen, but turn the volume down because my daughters like Justin Bieber. I don't want that. So 220k safety attribute on the car, in the car. These are the applications we're thinking about. These are the applications we're currently building. We're currently running pilots with potential customers, and always taking the skeleton of whatever our customer wants and adding it to their products, integrating that seamlessly so they really can have a latency-free experience. Latency is one of the key things about gesture recognition. If you've ever seen any videos on YouTube from other companies, look for the latency, because you don't want to do something and something else happens half a second later. It has to be spontaneously, immediately. You want to do something, maybe grab something and pull it on a different screen. You want to start pointing on something and then having it on your touch screen. And a second later, it has to be seamlessly integrated, and that's it's all about gestigon. Thank you very much.
That was in time. That was in time. Okay, so we ran a bit along in the first one, so precise questions and quick answers. Let's start with Min this time. Yeah, Min, what do you think about this technology?
Well, it looks like an amazing piece of technology, and I'm sure that gesture will be a very important part in the question of how will a future UI look like. I personally think that the question of a system integration, of how to put that into what kind of system and what use cases to put upon that, still is pretty open in the market space. Yeah, so, so I'm wondering what your perspective basically is. So what will we see for the first time? So what kind of applications are being basically managed by gestures?
Well, the first areas will of course be consumer electronics. I mean, we've seen at the CES a number of gesture-controlled TV sets. I'm not sure if we're there that the mass market will be made. But for example, take Windows 8. If you have a big screen, a big touch screen in front of your desk, you don't want to reach out your arm and move the icons. Your hand is at the keyboard, you pick up the finger, point, maybe additionally touch if you want to touch. But those are the things we're thinking of. And from our perspective, the killer application of gesture control is once you don't think about it anymore because you use it.
Javed.
Then it's involved.
Cool. Javed, what do you think about the use cases you mentioned?
Yeah, I was going to have a similar comments where basically the technology looks very impressive, but it would have been very nice to see some example applications. So when you talked about gesturing while driving at 220 kilometers per hour, for example, that would be really cool to see, even if it's just a mock-up video of what this could help people with. Also, I'd be curious about the competition and pros and cons of your technology. For example, I've seen another company called Thalmic Labs, I think, where they attach the microchip and measure the electric signals in your muscles. So for example, that might work better, let's say, in the dark. Yeah. So I would be curious, like, let's say you're driving at night, what happens then?
I have to be very clear on that. We won't build the killer application. That has to come from our customers. We have a B2B business model. We won't deliver an SDK to end users. But looking at the Intels, at the Sonys, at the Lenovos, they want it integrated, and it will come, and then the app developers will use whatever they like. From a competition point of view, there are a number of producers of hardware, and there are a big number of app developers, but the middleware is pretty much lacking. Looking at our real competitors, most of them try to take the full value chain from the camera to the SDK. But looking at their executable packages, looking at how much core do they need, where's the program running, I'm not sure if that's the way it will be going. I really think it has to be as seamless as a mouse. Do you know where the mouse software is running? Actually, I have no clue, and I don't care for it. It simply works. And that's where I think gesture recognition has to be implemented.
Cool, so 1 minute to go. You also got a clock now. So MG and Megan, MG first, what do you think?
Okay, so I happen to be an investor in a company called Oblong, if you know of it. It's, they built Minority Report tech. They're kind of at the higher end of the thing, talking about doing the full stack, all the hardware and everything. And then, I'm not an investor, but I know another company called Flutter, which is doing more of the software, I guess, side of things, but also some of the technology you're talking about. I wonder, from your perspective, like, what hardware do you think that you should focus on? Should it be like webcams that are built into computers to initially go after your targets? You mentioned Sony and some of the other ones. Like, what is the ripe thing? You also mentioned the Kinect as another device.
Actually, we're focusing totally on 3D sensors. They are just now entering the market, and they're entering into a size of a small candy bar. So today's prototypes can be put into laptops, and we have some in the lab where you say, wow, that could even go into a mobile, into your iPhone. They're so small, they will enter there. You can do things like that with an RGB camera, but only if you have a very stable background and if you have a very stable light. Taking these lights, it could be tricky if, for example, I wear a glove. Skin color can be a topic on RGB cameras. Taking the gesture solutions that some TV producers showed at the CES, where he stuck up a finger and you could click something like that, was really cool. It worked. It was stable. But it requested a stable environment behind me, and I couldn't have that in my living room where my kids are passing by and there's movement around. So
awesome. Understood.
RGB has a reason, but it's a different model.
Cool. No time for another question, but a comment. Megan, what do you think?
I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of unknowns that my panelists have touched on before. I actually do have a tactical question. I know there's no time, but really quick. It looked like you had to get within about 6 inches of the camera in order for it to work. Is that true? Is there a sphere? What's the sphere of activity?
Well, this camera does up to 1 meter.
Yeah.
We just locked it down due to be able to walk behind the laptop. The cameras are from 15 centimeters or 10 centimeters to 5 meters. That simply depends on the sensor, on the infrared light, using it, working on it. You have all flexibility you need there from the hardware.
Cool. Thank you, Gestigon. And next is Infogram.